Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I am going to try to get through a lot quickly. As one of the few people sitting on the dais who actually practice criminal law in the state of Texas, as well as licensed in Arkansas and practice there, as well as federal courts, one of the things that you said earlier, Mr. Beer, really stuck with me, is that there are already laws on the books as it relates to those violent criminals. And I know this because even though I hail from the great city of Dallas, I can tell you that when someone would come in and they were being held in custody for, say, a crime, they also had an ICE hold, okay? And that was for those that had maybe been deported before and had re-entered illegally and things like that. And so no matter what type of city you're in, I do want to be clear, federal law already, no matter if it's under the Biden administration or if it's under a Republican administration, we all agree that we want to be safe. And I think that's the first premise that we're losing, because there isn't something that is tatted on my head that says that I'm a Democrat and therefore you illegal bad person, don't come for me, go for the ones that have the R's on their forehead.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and if the Harry Potter sorting hat were dropped into Congress right now, it wouldn't even need to touch some of these MAGA clowns before whispering, fascists. Because let's be honest, how people react to what's happening in this country tells you exactly where they belong. Some are out here cheering for deportation raids, defending Nazi salutes, and celebrating when people lose their rights. Then, on the other side, you've got Jasmine Crockett, who actually gives a damn.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest, because I actually want to fix problems. And I actually have a really good senator in Texas, and I'm sure y'all can guess which one is the good one. But let me tell you, if we care about fentanyl, I have multiple bills for that. I started on the state level before everybody started talking about it, and I have federal bills that my senior senator has signed on to. So I welcome my colleagues because I actually want to make sure that my communities are safe. But as we start to talk about crime and statistics, Mr. Beer, I want to play a little game with you. It's called rhetoric versus reality. And so I want to ask you, my first question, is this rhetoric or reality? Immigrants commit more crimes than US citizens.
On a per capita basis?
Rhetoric or reality?
Oh, it is rhetoric.
Okay, thank you so much.
She's not just some loud mouth on a microphone. She's a legislator, a civil rights attorney, and someone who's been doing the work long before MAGA turned immigration into their latest hate-fueled campaign stunt. She's tackled fentanyl policy, crime prevention, and immigration reform before these Republican idiots even figured out how to pronounce cartel. And unlike her performative counterparts across the aisle, she's got something they don't: actual receipts.
The next one, immigrants are just living off the federal government and contribute nothing.
That would be rhetoric.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I would ask unanimous consent to enter study that says undocumented immigrants pay almost $100 billion in taxes. This is from the Alabama Reflector.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. My final rhetoric or reality question is immigrants only enter at the southern border.
Rhetoric.
Okay, right, because they enter all kinds of ways. I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there.
Here's the thing about Crockett versus the MAGA grift squad. She actually knows what the hell she's talking about. You think Marge the Trainwreck Green, a woman who once chased a school shooting survivor down the street, understands immigration law? You think Lauren Boebert, who barely squeaked her way through high school and got thrown out of a theater for acting like a drunk teenager, knows fentanyl policy? You think Nancy Mace, who flip-flops more than a worn-out pair of sandals, has any clue what's actually happening at the border? These people aren't lawmakers. They're attention-seeking reality TV rejects. But Jasmine Crockett, she's the real deal. She's not just pushing bills, she's getting things done. She's introduced multiple bills tackling fentanyl because she actually wants to fix problems, not just scream about them on Fox News. And guess what? She's been working on this at the state level long before it became a Republican talking point. Meanwhile, the GOP, they don't give a damn about solutions. They need immigration as a talking point. It's never about fixing anything. It's about keeping their base scared, angry, and misinformed. If they actually cared about fentanyl, they'd support Crockett's bill instead of using the crisis as a campaign slogan. If they actually cared about crime, they'd focus on the real criminals in this country instead of blaming immigrants for everything. But they won't, because fear-mongering keeps them in power.
I feel as if my colleagues from across the aisle have decided that they are going to make immigrants the boogeyman. It's insanity to me, but they also are showing compassion for victims, which they should, but they have no compassion for people that are contributing to making us great in this country. So interestingly enough, I'm curious to know, Mr. Beer, if you know if immigrants contributed to these particular crimes. There was a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York that killed a number of African Americans as they were trying to shop for groceries. Was the defendant an immigrant in that case? Do you know?
No, he was a U.S.-born citizen.
Thank you so much. Charleston, South Carolina, there were black churchgoers trying to praise the Lord. They were killed. Was that an immigrant that perpetrated that or not?
No, that was a U.S.-born citizen.
Thank you so much. Now, coming home to Texas, there was an El Paso shooting. Do you know if that was an immigrant or not?
No, they were targeting immigrants in that case.
In fact, each of these cases, it was white supremacists. And so the last unanimous consent that I'd asked for is this article that states that white supremacists behind over 80% of extremism-related U.S. murders in 2022.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Jasmine Crockett walked into that hearing knowing exactly what she was dealing with. A bunch of Republicans who can't tell the difference between a real crisis and a Fox News headline. So she did the only thing that made sense. She turned it into a game show. Because apparently the only way to get MAGA to absorb even the simplest facts is to spoon feed them like toddlers. Republicans love to scream about problems, but the moment you hit them with facts, they fold like a cheap suit. They can only win when they keep their base terrified and too distracted to realize that they're being lied to. But here's the real question. If they actually cared about crime, wouldn't they focus on the real threat? The one that keeps showing up in mass shootings, hate crimes, and domestic terrorism cases? Because if you look at who's actually committing the worst crimes in this country, you start to notice a pattern. And it sure as hell isn't immigrants. That's where Crockett takes this hearing to the next level. She got the GOP backed into a corner. They've spent years making immigrants the scapegoat for every problem in America, but she's about to throw reality back into their faces. Buffalo, Charleston, El Paso, not one of these mass shootings was committed by an immigrant. Every single one was carried out by a white supremacist. And guess what? Those white supremacists didn't just wake up one day hating people. They were radicalized by the same racist fear-mongering nonsense that Republicans spew every single day. So let's be crystal clear. If the GOP actually cared about crime, if they actually cared about public safety, they'd be talking about white supremacist terrorism. But they won't, because those are their people. And that's exactly where Crockett is going next. Because the real problem here isn't immigration. It's who the GOP is protecting and what they're willing to ignore just to hold on to power. Jasmine Crockett didn't just walk into that hearing to call out Republican lies. She exposed their entire game plan. They don't care about crime. They don't care about fentanyl. They don't even care about immigration. What they care about is keeping their base scared enough to ignore the real threat. Because the moment people stop being afraid, the entire Republican strategy falls apart. And that's why they push laws that let immigrants be detained or deported on just an accusation. No crime, no conviction, just suspicion. That's not law and order, that's fascism. Meanwhile, the actual threat, white supremacist violence, isn't just ignored, it's encouraged. Republicans have built their entire movement on fear, and the people they radicalize end up committing the worst acts of domestic terrorism that this country has ever seen. That's why Crockett's smackdown mattered. She didn't just fact-check them. She dragged them, exposed them, and made it crystal clear who the real danger is. And while people like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace play pretend congresswoman on TV, Jasmine Crockett is actually doing the damn job. Republicans don't just lie about crime. They feed the problem. Then they blame someone else for the consequences. And Jasmine Crockett, she's not just smarter than they are. She's fearless, and they can't handle it. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.